Preeti Sharma is going to present on the Kulat stenting. So, can I request the Lalita madam to start with the case?
Sure, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. So, we start. This will be a case-based discussion, and to begin with, basically a coronary bifurcation lesion is defined as a lesion of stenosis which involves or is adjacent to the origin of a side branch which is at least 2 mm in diameter. The stenosis could include either the large branch, that is the main branch, or the side branch, or both of it. And significant stenosis implies more than 50% of stenosis. Currently, there are many classifications, around 8, and to add to it, the MATS classification. All these classifications are basically anatomical based, and as per se, they do not dictate the treatment strategy or the prognosis. What is important is to see whether it is a true bifurcation or not true. And when we mean a true bifurcation, we mean that both the MD and the SD are significantly narrow. That is more than 50% of the diameter stenosis. So among all the classifications that are present, Medina classification still, it is the most simplified and widely used, especially in the routine practice. However, this does not take into account the size, the area of distribution, and the lesion length. However, these are most important in decision making. So this can be overcome by summarizing all these features in the form of imaging or in FSR. And of course, the MATS classification, which is based on the stenting process which is involved. The basic idea is either it should be a single stent strategy or a two stent strategy. That is, in other words, whether it's a provisional stenting or an elective double stenting. We have to remember that no two bifurcations are identical. Strategy that can be applied to any single bifurcation region. And the objective of any bifurcation.
Here we can talk a little bit more about the Meadows classification because more importance is given. The word of the MADS is the main, across, and the distal and side classification. It is mainly depends upon the how we are going to do the stenting strategy. And another one is in very not popularized is the Mohammed coronary classification, where there is a prefix B is used for the bifurcation and the suffix I is used to close to that of the bifurcation. When N there is a non-significant side branch involvement, and S is for the small vessel of the main vessel, and L is the large size of the side branch. So just to, there is another combination of the classification of the coronary lesions, combining all of these and mainly for the Meadows and the Medina. And the Medina can be classified once again depending upon an IVUS as IVUS Medina, because what is angiochondrographically what we are seeing here may not be a true real the degree of the stenosis. With an IVUS, we can be very certain about what is the degree of the stenosis by the IVUS. So that is called as IVUS Medina. Just to completion sake, I mentioned about the classifications.
Okay. The strategy which we adapt should be individualized. There is no specific that this strategy has to be used for this bifurcation. But the objective or the goal is always the same. That is, we require both the branches to be open and especially an optimal result in the main branch. Coming to the first case, this is the angiogram of a patient who has presented with chronic stable angina with a TMP positive. The LAO caudal view shows diffuse disease of the left vein around 60 to 70%, which is extending into both the LAD and the LCX. The LCX is a non-dominant vessel, rather it's a right dominant system, but the vessel is significant size around 2.5 and arises at an angle of almost around 90 degrees from the bifurcation. If you see the other view, the cranial view, you can make out the diffuse disease of the left main, and there is intermediate stenosis of the LAD which is not very clear. And the LCX, the ostium is deceived, maybe around 40 to 50% or more, which we are not sure of. Such cases of left main present us with a dilemma that we often underestimate the disease in the left main angiographically. So what we require is definitely a form of imaging which can confirm the degree of stenosis in the left main. And the second thing is the severity of disease at the ostium. So our intention was to go for a PCI of this vessel, but before that we wanted to go for an imaging to see the extent of the disease and the involvement of the LCA. So what should be the imaging in this? Should we go for an SFR, IVUS or OCT? Ideally, SFR is recommended for a non-left main Whereas in case of left main, it is commonly seen that the FFR will be overestimating the stenosis because of the presence of downstream lesion, even if you do a IV adenosine FFR. So the ideal is either IVUS or OCT. IVUS has traditionally been considered the best for visualization as it causes a direct lumen visualization. However, at present, we can say that IVUS or OCT are equally good for LMCA stenting. The second question is, should I go for an elective stenting or a provisional stenting? Well, according to the latest recommendation, provisional stenting should be the approach for most cases of left main. According to the definition study, any simple lesion, that is, where the side branch, in this case the LCX stenosis is less than 70% and the lesion length is 10 mm, ideally to go for a provisional stenting. The other factors such as a small LCX or a diameter or diminutive LCX in the right dominant system and a wide angle between the LAD LCX suggests to go for an elective stenting. In our case, the ostial stenosis, we are not sure of it. It is commonly seen that you overestimate the stenosis in case of ostial LCX because if you see the LCX arises at an angle, a T-shaped angle from the bifurcation. So it is commonly seen that you are not able to estimate the actual severity of LCX. So we plan to go for an IVUS, and when we need to do an IVUS for the left main, ideally you need to do a pullback from the LAD as well as the LCX. When you're doing a pullback from the LAD, you see the ostium of the LCX. When you're doing a pullback from the LCX, you will visualize the ostium of the LAD. So we took this patient for PCI through the femoral approach, a 7 French EBU guide, and both the LAD and the LCX were wired with a Foga XT. Then an IVUS run was done to the LAD. Unfortunately, we were not able to pass the IVUS probe into the LCX. Possibly this could be because of the angulation, or it could be because of the stenosis present at the carina. So the IVUS pullback from the LAD showed that there was significant disease extending from the shaft of the left main up to the proximal LAD. The vessel size of LAD was around 3.5 proximally, distally it was 2.75, and the left main size was around 4 mm with a stenosis of 80% and a plaque burden of 70%. What was important was that the ostium of the left main was free of disease, and we even saw distally whether the diagonal which was arising from the LAD had any plaque, which was seen to be plaque free. What was more important was there was only mild disease at the LCX ostium, which we saw in the pullback from the LAD, with a plaque burden less than 30%. So according to the available reports, this MLA is significant for both left main as well as LAD with a mild disease of LCX. So we decided to go ahead with the provisional stenting. This is one classification based on IVUS, where you classify the LAD LCX lesion, and when the plaque burden at the LCX ostium is less than 50% and the MLA at that carina is more than 4 mm square, it is less likely that we will require a need for double stenting. So keeping in view this thing, we went for a provisional stenting from the left main to the LAD. So we didn't have to go for any pre-dilatation. We went for direct stenting, and the depth of 3.5 to 32 mm was deployed from mid shaft to left of the left main into LAD after confirmation in multiple views. So these were the different views that were taken.
Here we can have the discussion whether that is a direct stenting is advisable in the left main, or otherwise it's a preparation of the bed is required before stenting. Can I have the opinion of the panelists?
Ideally, left main, if it is a very tight stenosis, we cannot take the risk of any compromise or ischemia because a large area of myocardium is involved. So we go for a pre-dilatation.
Yeah,
I think
never treat a left main without preparing the bed. See, these lesions, when it's not just the diameter, they tend to be sometimes fibrotic. You place a stent and you can't do a post-dilatation after that. So preparing the bed, and this is not a lesion that gives you time. There's so much myocardium at risk. If you lose, I mean, it's not a lesion that will give you time of slow flow, anything. You lose the patient. So I would be very hesitant to treat a left main with a direct stenting in a lesion like this. I would definitely prepare the bed well, pre-dilate it with a 2.5, 2.75. That you can discuss, or a 3, but definitely prepare the bed before putting in a stent.
But I have one more additional point here to say it, that it is true when you are doing the angiochondrographic guided dilatations. Like in angiocardiogram, already the complex lesions as a presence, like the calcium is a present, then it is a definite indication to do it. But when you did the IVUS, and especially within a virtual histology, almost you are certain about the type of the plaque characteristics, then you can decide whether you can go for the direct stenting or not. The controversies in the olden days was like that the bed preparation is always indicated, but with virtual histology, when it is very certain of an younger age group and the risk factors of the calcium, like a chronic renal failure is not there and IVUS is not demonstrating, probably we can. But the major problem is about the sizing of the stunt, just because of the depending upon the IVUS size may not be that much reliable when there is a significant stenosis. That may be the one of the reasons why they say that it is better to have a balloon dilatation, a fast balloon dilatation of the few seconds, and is much better. Main thing is here, the as madam is mentioning, what is the size of the balloon, what we are going to do it. And using a smaller size of balloons just to prepare a bed is not a sufficient enough. It should be, if you really wanted to prepare a bed, it should be a 1:1 the ratio. Especially in the left main, we have to go to the 1:1. And of course, we use the Murray's law, Finit's law, and the Fukasawa's laws. All these things are the used for the sizing of the stunt. But in the wherever we wanted to size the balloon, also we can use the similar the laws to apply. But all said and done, IVUS is much better to know the size of the balloon or stunt which we are going to be using than using these laws.
So, in this case, you've seen clearly that you cannot pass the IVUS down the circumflex. And it's not because, on the other side, you're saying the circumflex ostium is not tight, then why can't you pass it down that? So is the left main being underestimated? I would pre-dilate it and do a second run of IVUS, see the circumflex properly before going in. And whatever, thing is done, I can tell you from, we've seen a lot of people burn their hands. We've ourselves also been in trouble. I would still say that it hardly takes any time to without preparing.
Yeah, that is a good point. But here, as you are already saying, the angulation is the preventing than the real passage of the IVUS. But really, do you spend time in passing the IVUS when it is not crossing through the circumflex?
So if you have to really see it and you're doing a left main and it's important, see, I would just see more angiographic views and see the circumflex. Because leaving a hazy ostium, it's a huge OM, there's some disease ahead, and having a complication later is not worth it. So if I think this is, firstly, I don't see, IVUS helps you optimize your stent, but once you've seen a bit, you don't need to do it in every case. The whole approach of is to take a right.
So, have you taken the different views to an ostium because angiographical impression?
Yes, ma'am, we have, but I have not incorporated all the views. We have taken all the views. Only in this apic caudal, the ostium of LCS looked significant. So because it was a right dominant system, so our intention was to do the main stunting, and if there is every chance there will still be a compromise of the LCS. So after we do the stunting, we thought we'll
What is the size
and decide whether to go for the provisional stunting.
Yeah, what is the size of the stunt taken?
3.5.
3.5 into 32.
Okay. Is that stunt type of the stunt can go up to the 0.5 or 5? IVUS estimation of the
See, the IVUS showed that the distal LAD after the diagonal was 2.75 and the proximal was 3, and the left main was 4, 3.5 and 4. So we didn't go for a 4 stunt. We went for a 3.5 stunt, and our intention was to dilate it, post-dilate, optimize the stunt which is present in the left main, because the LAD was not that big enough to take a 4th stunt.
I think this is very risky again, for a 2.75 LAD on.
2.75 was distal. The osteoproximal is, for us, it is fine. It was around 3.5. And so we could have taken a 3.5 stunt and post-dilated to 4, which was present in the left main.
After a large diameter, LED, it's hard to, what pressure did you deploy? Did you deploy at low pressure?
No, no. We went for the optimal pressure of 12. And once the stunt was deployed, we did a pot of the stunt, left main stunt, with a 3.5 into 8 NC balloon. And then we attempted to cross the LCX.
The size
Actually,
was
the
4.
part, yeah, that's what I was about to come. Should be a 4. I think it is looking like a bigger balloon also.
Actually, what is supposed to be done is the 1:1 balloon dilatation. Okay, that we have done later actually. Here we did only with a 3.5 to 8.
It's very important to do pot with a 1:1 before you recross the wire. So do it with 4. When the opposition is less, your wire won't get entangled. It will find the lumen better. And of course, in this case, it's okay, but it should do with a 4.
I agree with you, madam. But because the stunt was 3.5, we thought it is ideal to take a 3.5 and do the pot. The thing is, if the wire has any difficulty in going the LCS, yes, they can definitely upgrade it to a 4 balloon. And while final pot, which we will do, should be with a 1:1 in the vessel. That is the 4th balloon. So here we did the pot with a 3.58 NC, and then it was easy to recall the LCX.
One of the important thing in the pot is, one is the sizing of the balloon, and the second one is the position of the balloon. It should be the shorter balloon and should not cover across the bifurcation. So not the marker, the shaft dilatation, which is the most important point, it should be at the bifurcation. It should not include the bifurcation. That is the first thing has to be taken. And even I agree that it should be to be higher pressure to go initial part. To the major purpose of doing the part is, one is the stunt, proximal stunt expansion properly, and second one is the stunt so that it facilitates. So the important thing is the dilatation. We should not go across the bifurcation and then do the whole vessel dilatation. That is the most important. As you did it, you confined it to this of the left main only with a shorter balloon of the 8 millimeters you have taken. Yeah, that's good.
We should end before the carina.
Other 2 cases are also there. So let's go make it a little faster.
Okay. So after the wire crossing, we did a balloon post dilatation of the LCX. First with one, we dilated the studs first with 1.5 into 12, followed by the 2.5 by 12, and then we did the final kissing with a 3.5 into 14 balloon in LED. Then we did an IVAL stunt to both LED, and even we attempted for the LCX, but through the stunt we could not do it. The LED IVAS pullback showed under expansion the proximal portion of the stunt, and there was no malacquisition or dissection. But the LCX, we could not pass the IVAS probe. So at this stage, we did not go ahead to do the further. I mean, we could have gone for other methods to pass the probe through into the LCX. So we did not take that risk because the ostium of the LCX was as it was before. So final final dilatation of the under expansion was done with 4 into 12 NC balloon. And even the left main portion of the stunt was dilated. Because we were not sure of the LCX.
You are doing the kissing balloon of the LCX along with an LED. The balloon negotiation is proper to the LCX. There is no problem of the going of the balloon.
No, 1.5 and 2, both of them went easily.
Went very easily. So then probably the angulation is making the difficulty in going that. Okay. Then you must have done some other functional assessment. Have you done with an FFR or something to
estimate? After doing the final part and all, we did an FFR to LCX, which came as 0.93. So we were satisfied and we left. Even though the ostium looked significant, we were sure that the FFR was not significant. And so we left the idea of stunting the LCX.
As we already know that the side branch narrowing, it could be a plaque shift or it could be the carinal shift. The most of the time, when the carinal shift occurs, the FFR comes as negative. When the plaque shift occurs, then usually the FFR comes as a positive. That may be another reason why here the FFR is negative. Probably it is a carinal shift. Yeah, it would have been a very nice to.
Majority of the time, it is carinal shift in case of left main.
Yeah.
So these are general guidelines for provisional stunting, which we have already shown. What is most important is the selection of the size. Already we have mentioned that the spinal stunt size should be selected according to the distal main vessel. And then you can do either a pod or a kissing balloon to optimize for the proximal vessel stunt. And when you are doing a pod technique, it is recommended in any case where there is a difficulty in recrossing into the side branches. And this helps to correct the geometry of the stunt and is recommended in majority of the cases. Now, whether pod has to be done in all cases of provisional stunting, the results are controversial. And after pod, whether to do a final kissing. If we are doing a pod, we should go for a final kissing. If we are not doing a pod, the question of final kissing may not be there. And results have shown that when you do a pod, then you should do a final kissing balloon dilatation because it decreases the incidence of restenosis as well as improves, has a better FFR and Timic flow. So even in case of provisional stunting, ideally a final kissing should be done after the pod.
But actually, there is some controversy, like a pre-pot study, which says that the pot additionally, even though now you are stressing very much on the doing the pot each in every case, that study is the one study which demonstrates that the major purpose of the pot is to have a proximal stunt deposition very well and facilitate the crossing of the side branch, which can be done with a kissing balloon dilatation. So that study is the one study which is really doesn't say that pre-pot study doesn't say that the kissing balloon, when you are doing it, then the pot is not required. But as ideally,
actually,
we do the pot.
Initially they said that to do a final pot even after a kissing balloon. But the pre-pot study says that because the kissing balloon itself is sufficient, you don't require a final pot after the kissing balloon inflation.
See, one thing is very clear that when you do a kissing balloon, the overlap should be very minimal in the main branch because it's not a perfect sphere, it's an oval. So we did a lot of kissing balloon and we didn't do a pot maybe 10 years ago, but now we know it, that the kissing balloon has to be very precisely placed to just get a good carina reconstruction. Pot has to be done in every case. Why will you not optimize the stent proximally? So to keep the carina and to keep the alignment of the vessels, we must do it. And then it doesn't take so much time to, do a kissing balloon. So you used a 1.5. I think with your stent, hardly being a lesion out there, see the balloons, if you're reusing balloons, it's different to use a 1.5. Otherwise, you take a New York balloon to 2.5, it will easily go down. Any of the mosaic or any of the regular balloons also cross. And in that, getting an optimum kissing balloon always will give you a cleaner result. So with Brillinta or Prasugrel, it's very forgiving, but leaving shaggy, hazy vessels is not a good idea. So, that precision and cleanliness of your work, I strongly believe in it, and it has to be artfully done. It doesn't matter, if effort...
We also strongly believe that a final pot should be done, but studies have shown that if a final kissing is done, another pot may not be required final pot. But
even I agree that the pot is... Yeah, even I agree that the pot is required, but the major problem is for exactly to the proper pot, it should be at a very short balloon and should not cross the bifurcation. So we should have the 6 and 8 mm the balloons, and where the stunt also should be there in the left main to do it. In the introduction of the study, they mentioned specifically about that. So at least you should have a 6 to 8 millimeters of the stunt to do the pot. So it is not possible then every time to have that size of the balloons. That's the reason why they did this randomization. So pot is well accepted. There is no doubt about it. But all said and done, when you have the problem like this, then have a better kissing than leaving it. Yeah.
So the other part of it is, which I would like to point out, is that when you did the IVOS run, you found that the stent was underexpanded. Apposition was good, but expansion was less. Then you used a 4 to dilate the proximal LAD. I would do a 3.5, which you took out for a pot initially, and go to higher pressure and optimize it. See, the pressure impact to open that vessel will not happen. A 3.5 to higher pressure will optimize that LAD, not the 4.
Okay.
Okay, so let's move ahead. I think we are now 7:57. So there are 2 more speakers waiting. Let's quickly finish and go to the next speakers then.
Fine. Provisional stunting, of course, luckily we did not have to go for a second stunt in the LCX, but in case we had to go, these are the options. That is the T stunting, TAP, Fulate, or the internal crush. I will not go into this because I think the other speakers, but these are the images and you will find it in all standard textbooks. What is T stunting, TAP, and reverse crush? Okay.
The ma'am
So this is
has
the
written
second.
an article that should be, you know, connected to this talk. It's very good. Review
Ma'am?
article. The article which Jyotsna has written is very good. The link should be given at the end of this talk to that.
We have a review article on coronary bifurcation in IJCD journal, which covers all these aspects. So one can refer to that. This is the second case. The angiogram shows the LAD lesion of 80 to 90% in mid LAD. The D1 ostium is significantly diseased, followed by 80% stenosis, again in the diagonal after the ostium. The bifurcation angle around 70 to 80%. So a Medina classification of 111. Our plan was to do for an elective double stunting of LAD and D1, as it fits into all the criteria. If you look,
There should be a provisional stenting. The diagonal is not very big.
the
That
diagonal.
than this diagonal. The OM in the last case was a more important vessel than this diagonal. This is
The
good
diagonal.
for
This diagonal was
No, this diagonal is quite big enough, and is almost this is the biggest
the
diagonal
only big diagonal.
when compared to the D. Even though it is D2, a D1 is also is a small intermediate size, and this is I think it is fair enough to the thinking of protecting this diagonal.
yeah, protect it, dilate both the vessels.
And because it is the only big diagonal, and
Yeah,
Do
then I wanted to say about how we score what is likely the chance of the side branch occlusions. So there is a V-score system. This, if you see this diagonal, then ostium is a disease and there is a disease distal to that. So that is the one of the scores. If it is the beyond an osteal lesion,
this is
a
the
10 millimeters length lesion is present in the diagonal and it is in the side branch, then is likely to have a V-score to within higher side. So the V-score is more than 12. Yeah, I already mentioned in this
So
article
diagonal,
what is the
even by
V-score
it
and this. This is comes as definitely the more than 12. I think we have to think as a two stunt strategies when the beginning than the provision stunting in this.
especially because the disease is extending beyond the ostium, and this is the only LAD which does not have any other big LAD beyond it. So the area supplied will be large, and I think we should go for an elective stunting in this case.
So let's see what you did.
So first, we decided to go for an OCT of LAD. That was mainly to see once whether the distal disease in LAD was significant, and secondly to see the landing zones. We were not sure because the LAD looked diffuse with disease even in the mid part. At the same time, we were not sure whether we could do an OCT of the diagonal. If we could have done it, would have given us much better results. But we could do an OCT done only of the LAD. This is the role of the OCT in the bifurcation. Yes, ma'am?
I know nothing. Even that angulation of the diagonal is also is a very odd actually. It is looking like a beyond 70 degrees. So it may be the more difficult unless you do the pre-dilatation and the pre-wiring before doing any procedure. Yeah, please go ahead.
The main intention of doing the OCT is, of course, to see the severity, the landing zones and all. It also helps us in deciding actually whether to go for a single stent or the dual stent. So these are the criteria on the OCT where you can decide whether to go for a provisional stunting or two stent approach. But for this, you ideally require an OCT done on both vessels. But in this, we could get only partial information because we could not cross into the diagonal. So finally, we decided to go for a
one more thing, and OCT important point is the distribution of the plug. The most of the time, what we think is at the divider, the most plug is present, which is not true. Most of the time, it is in the lateral wall, it is more present. And how much is present at the origin of the diagonal, the plug burden is going to determine about the side branch occlusion. So that we will get the best information by the OCT, or I was for that sake.
Yeah, that's what this slide shows, that the plaque distribution, wherein the provisional approach is opposite to the branch, whereas here is a two stent where it involves both the sides of the branch. So based on these 4 criteria, it gives us an idea whether to go for a provisional or a two-stunt approach. So
we
a femoral second. Yes, ma'am.
If you're going to be till
Okay.
8:30, we'll just try to finish within 5 minutes, huh?
Yes, ma'am. It will be over.
1 minute, madam. This is a teaching session. There are the questions actually. Why don't you answer those questions? The lesion in the side branch more than 5 mm from the carina, and this bifurcation angle, two-stunt strategies I feel is appropriate. That is by the Deepti Kodali. Even we are discussing the same. Exactly, the angle here is the determinant for this thing. Of course, many other people are thinking is two-stunt strategy is better. Please go ahead, Lalita.
Okay. So 7 French femoral approach, and both the wides are both the vessels are wide, and pre-dilatation of the diagonal was done with 2x12, and then we advanced the stunt 2.25 into 18 stunt in the diagonal across a 2.75 into 24 disc in LAD. The side branch stunt was deployed against an uninflated stunt in LAD, and then it was pulled back and partially dilated to high pressures at 12 atmosphere. And then the whole balloon system was removed after checking, and then the main vessel stunt was deployed. After this, the side branch, we did the pod of the stunt which was present in LAD, but it was not an actual pod, so we did not show it because we did not have a shorter balloon. So we had done it with 12, which was not an actual pod. After that, we could cross the diagonal, and then we did the post dilatation with 2x12 balloon, and then simultaneous kissing with the same balloon and with 2.75 into 14 balloon in the MB, dilated at 8 and 14 atmosphere simultaneously.
One important point I wanted you to pay attention is when you are doing these kissing balloons, don't expect that the side branch balloon has to go quite deep into side branch, which is supposed to be then avoided. Actually, the beyond the ostial coverage is good enough to have it, but it should be do as a sequential increase in the pressures, like the both at the 4 atmospheres once and then 8 atmospheres, then deflate the each one of it and go either of it and the 12 atmospheres. So most of the people will do these kissing balloons, pushing the whole of the balloon into the whole length of the diagonal, which is not advisable. Actually, we should cover the ostium and beyond ostium a little bit is much better than this. And that's why we should use the shorter balloons, not a longer balloons.
So in this, you put a 2.5 stent in the diagonal. I would post dilate with a 2.5, at least a 2 millimeter kissing balloon may not be adequate to get a good carina in this.
I agree, ma'am, but we could not pass a bigger balloon than that, so we had to go back to the same 2 balloon. And there is mild angular expansion present at the diagonal.
That is the reason why we would do a double crush, put one stent, crush it, and then take the second and do it, because you'll never get a good result if you don't crush it fully and get a good kissing. So if you're under dilating and doing a kissing, the stent is not fully deployed at that side branch. And that's very key, the key is not placing 2 stents, but getting a very good apposition. Because any metal that is meshed at the carina will, in the long run, always trouble.
Is the problem of a G not having a N balloons?
That could be a possibility. But as madam said, DK is always better, but I'm not sure with that diameter of a diagonal whether we should go for a DK or be satisfied with the result which we achieved here.
No, sorry. Coronaries are not forgiving. Please, believe me, I've seen enough to tell you we should not have this idea about coronaries. Then it is better to do provisional. And now, like we plan a TAVI and such meticulous planning, I think all your balloon sizing, your steps, the art bifurcation stenting is artwork. So the whole team should know exactly in what order you are doing, whether you can cross, whether you crush, whether you're crossing distally in the crush stent proximally, and you got OCT to guide you. So all the equipment should be planned, and then you should touch bifurcation. That makes so much difference. I can only tell you that.
Yes, ma'am. This was a post
dilatation. I would not sleep, for at least the first 2 weeks till the patient crosses the subacute. I mean, for a diagonal, you don't want to stent thrombosis. And these are the cases where we have a 1:1 BA ratio. Yeah, you worry. I mean, Brillianta is forgiving, but still you'd worry about it. It would not be opposed whether
This
too
is
many.
the post-hunting OCT run, and this is the final result, which could be seen in the LAD with no malapposition and no dissection. So I'm not discussing about the criteria and all for double stunting, which will be covered by the other speakers. The only thing, because we had used a mini crush technique, that is a side branch stunt, which is crushed by the main branch stunt. So a few points. The advantage of the mini crush is that we have an immediate patency of the branches, and there is excellent coverage of the ostium of the side branch. In fact, it can be used in almost all true bifurcation, but of course, we should avoid in a wide angle bifurcation. The main disadvantage is we'll have to recross multiple studs to achieve a final kissing. So this procedure has already been described. And why? And when is a mini crest preferred especially? This is especially preferred when it is crucial to maintain the patency in both vessels. It's technically easier, faster, and it's an individual preferences. The main thing is when the bifurcation angle is less than 70, and there is a large discrepancy between the proximal main branch and the side branch. These are the points which should be taken when you consider the mini crush. Thank you.
Very nice, very nice. Actually, the angle of the diagonal, the only way you can treat it is with the mini crush. There's not, and this is not a good case for culotte. And only way to treat this for the mini crush. So thank you for the very nice presentation. Two cases very beautifully showing a bifurcation. And I think with that we can go to the next speaker.
Yes,
Kavita Tyagi. She's a senior interventional cardiologist at Gangaram Hospital. And I've had the privilege to work with her when she was with us at Max. So over to you, Preeti. Kavita, what are you going to show us today? I can't hear you.
Thank you so much, everyone, especially Rupa ma'am for inviting me for the session. And these two cases anatomically are almost similar to what Dr. Lalita has shown. So I'll be going with the cases. So the first case is we had a 69-year-old gentleman, non-diabetic, normotensive, and he presented with dyspnea on exertion for last few weeks, which increased on the day of presentation. Vitals were normal, and he had just T-wave inversions and precaudal leads. Cardiac enzymes were normal. EF was also normal. So we took him for angiogram. So femoral root, and we see that left main is longish. Distal left main has political stenosis almost up to the tune of 70%. LAD type 3 and ostium, rather osteoproximal long lesion stenosis. And it has a very early huge diagonal, almost serving the purpose of ramus. And LCX, we have a osteoproximal 80% stenosis. So syntax score is higher side. We discussed with the patient, and after taking informed consent, we took him for angioplasty. So right at this juncture, I want to know from the panelist what should have been our approach. Is it the DK crush which is mandatory, or we can go for some other options as well?
Yeah, that's what. All these cases without imaging, it is not advisable directly to take an angiocardiographic picture. So this is not a very critical enough that doing an IVS will precipitate the ischemia in this patient. So definitely I will do the first imaging before taking a decision, not just simply depending upon an angiocardiogram. If the patient becomes an ischemic, then I will withdraw and directly go for the DK crush. Or otherwise, first I will do the imaging.
My preference will also be a DK crush other than any other technique in this.
Yeah, it's a huge diagonal to protect. There are 3 branches, so protect the diagonal and via the LAD circ and a DK crush.
Okay. So we know that distal left main is more prone for atherosclerosis because it is exposed to greater shear stress and more frequent turbulent blood flow. And the significant unprotected left main has been seen in 5 to 7% of all angiograms. And distal bifurcation is involving almost 60 to 90% of the lesions. Bifurcation varies not only in anatomy, like plaque location, burden, diameter, branches, as previous speaker has spoken, and angle between branches, but also in the dynamic changes during PCI. So every case behaves differently. That is the issue. So almost ostium and body 24% and distal 73 to 90%. Plus two more important features which show us the success of PCI in left main. That number, as just now I spoke, 80% involves bifurcation, and up to 80% of left main they have multi-vessel CAD. So this also decides our further strategy. So just a word about pre-combat trial, because its long-term data has come. So it already showed the 1 year composite rate of death MI stroke was almost statistically insignificantly different from each other. And we have now 10-year outcome after deglutition stent, this data, which showed clearly there is no much difference in primary composite outcome at the end of 10 years, death from any cause, there is no difference. And composite of death MI, no difference, only difference is ischemia-driven target is vessel revascularization, which was, however, different since year 2. So, which is almost a known phenomena. So, basically, there is no single strategy, one stent versus two stent, that can be applied to every bifurcation. And a tailored approach has to be planned because of different anatomies, plaque distribution, size and distribution of side branch, and angle, etc.
There is a comment from the Kavita. There is a comment from the Shiba. The Bayesian reanalysis of the Excel shows the inferior results with the left main stenting versus CABG. This is published in the last month.
Okay, but this pre-combat trial has shown the 10 years long outcome.
Yeah, so they will be different, but it's fine, you know. We all are doing left main.
So reviewing this angio again, we have almost T-shape angulation. Main vessel is very large, and there is a caliber discrepancy as well. Calcification we are not sure, as on angiograms we can't see all the times. Ostium is involved, and side branch is not small. So if we see an approach for left main coronary artery, then if we see this angle, then we stent, of course, out, at least in this case, because left main is very long. T-stent, I think we can go for T-stent because we have almost a trifurcation, and we don't want to mess up with the 3 ostiums together. We can maybe finish it in a simpler manner. That's what I thought. And Kilot, I think not advisable in this case. Short
V-stent doesn't come at all into the mode of treatment in this, because that is a method of the treatment when is 0-1-1. So it is 1-1-1. So there is no question of thinking of the V-stent in this category.
Yeah, and I think the concept should be also that V-stent should very rarely be done. You never get optimization on V-stent. It was popular 10 years ago by Samir Sharma. Very few. We don't do it.
We don't do it now, and that for very, very short left main. Possibly it was done historically, but not nowadays.
Separate ostia where they are, you can do it like that. But if it's a true left main, long-term outcomes aren't good. No one talks of it really today.
So these are the steps of stenting with protrusion. So what about T and protrusion in this case? Anybody will go for that?
Yeah, but angle is in favor for the DK crush. So I prefer the DK crush first than the tap, because the angle is the major difference. And in the DK crush, you can have the proper approximation of the both the stents. Again, the tap in this, the problem of the approximation and the final kissing balloon going to be effective or not, we are not sure. So tap is not a first choice in this.
Okay, but only thing
the available data with the distal left main of such equal caliber of LAD and LCX, I think the first and the only option should be DK crush in this case.
Seeing that we have a very big diagonal working as a ramus and very nearby, almost serving the trifurcation.
Yeah, same thing. We can apply the B-score and see that whether it is likely to be the compromised or not. But the disease in the ostium and beyond the ostium of the ramus, so-called ramus versus the diagonal, is not significant.
So I understand what Kavita is saying. What happens is when you crush it, then will you use the LAD as a side branch, because you don't want that mesh of metal lying at the carina. you want it lying away. So you don't want it where the trifurcation is. You don't want it lying in front of the diagonal. So when we do a trifurcation, many times like this, when it's a true ramus, you treat the LED like a side branch and crush towards the lateral wall and place the stent, into a ramus or a circ, the larger vessel, because at the trifurcation point, you don't want too much metal, crushed metal lying out there. So that point is well appreciated, and a lot of these things, after you wire, pre-dilate, the alignment of the vessels you decide as you're doing the procedure.
Yeah, that's true. Because we will plan something, but negotiation of the stunts and everything becomes difficult. So
having the crushed material over that diagonal and on the carina is not a good idea.
And ma'am, in case of left main and this kind of anatomy, I think we always remain prepared for plan B, because we might go wrong at any stage.
Yeah.
That also is there.
Correct.
So
Correct.
yeah, so this LED has a long segment disease that also we have to address. And in this, we can, I think, clearly see that left main distal is clearly diseased. So we wire both the branches, LED and LCX, and we pre-dilate both the branches sequentially with 2.5 into 15 NC balloon. And we dilate, in fact, entire LED, the diseased portion. So this was the result after our pre-dilatation, and fortunately, no dissection, no hematoma, no thrombus formation till now. And we dilate this ramus or high diagonal as well. Though we were not sure whether if something happens to this branch, whether we are going to apply third stent or not, but we did that. Then we take a stent, which is 3 into 38, which is deployed, which is this LED is being covered, the disease part of LED. So proximal to LED, we are covering this part. So I think fairly done. And then we take another stent that is 3.5 into 22, which is from left main, almost bit of left main to LED, overlapping the previous stent.
Yeah, again the comments can be passed on the portion of the angiocardographically diseased portion. I think the difference of opinion is already there.
Actually, left main was very long. So I don't know, I mean, to cover that entire left main with the metal, didn't, I mean.
Yeah, one of the indications if the left main is longer than the 20 mm, then what you are saying is correct. That's the reason why I'm saying that we should have a IVUS in this, because keeping, especially when you are planning to keep the stunt in the mid portion of the left main, we have to be very certain that that is where landing zone is at the disease free.
So this is the picture after this stent from left main to LED, and then we recrossed the wire to LCX and diagonal also. So now just a few slides about methods for side branch rewiring. In fact, I have taken it from today's article, which Madam has posted. So for side branch wiring, we have few techniques, like the shape of the tip of the wire should have single bend for Y-shaped and double bend for T-shaped. Then better to avoid hydrophilic or polymer tip coating wires. And the shape of the two wires must be adopted to their secondary use if a wire swap or recross is required. And this is a picture, it has been given in the article. So for extreme angle bifurcation, reverse wire technique. So we are taking it into main branch in a loop form and we are bringing it back, and then we are seeing that this tip is prolapsing into side branch. So that is one technique. And if not done, then in some cases we might require microcatheters, and we might require plug modification by dilatation of undersized balloon proximal to carina, or rotational atherectomy also sometimes required.
See, a microcatheter, if it may not allow the shape to take that work, sometimes the human catheter is better than the microcatheter.
Actually, that microcatheter has two tips, so that one can be directed to side branch, but that is not available all the times in cath lab. That is.
Yeah, now.
So, and where direct access is not possible, the wire needs to be bent to reach contralateral wall as a hinge point in order to direct the tip of wire into ostium of side branch. And distal tip of the wire is then usually pushed forward in rotational movement to reduce the risk of wire prolapse into main. So this point is very important, that it has to be with rotational movement. And after entering the ostium, the forward push is usually accompanied by a slight rotation to avoid a prolapse of wire into distal main branch. In case the wire continues to prolapse into distal main branch, it can be considered to block the distal vessel with a balloon or at low pressure, and then we get a pathway towards side branch.
And
So
one
then-
more question. There is a question from the Dr. Meghna. Is the cutting balloon is a better option for the bed preparation in the left main stenting because of the less block shift?
Cutting balloon may be option, but in our case, basically, we did not quantify any calcium as such. And after dilatation, we could see the good lesion we could achieve. And neither we find any difficulty. We faced any difficulty in passing the stent also. So the distal stent was in fact quite long. There also we did not face any difficulty. So we believed that our pre-dilatation has been adequate enough.
Yeah,
And
if you have a residual lesion following the balloon dilatation, then probably you will consider about it. But all said and done, even though it is a micro dissection, we have to take care of those micro dissections are also when you are trying to recross. Especially, don't use these cutting balloons to the side branch. You used the main branch, giving a good results is acceptable.
And
Balloon dilatation, the contour of the balloon, it doesn't show that there is much resistance to the dilatation. This itself indicates that the lesion may not be that hard enough, requiring a cutting balloon here.
yes. If it gives away very fast, then we assume that, we believe that. So our balloon also went easily to 15 to LX ostium. And at this point, I think we can discuss passing into side branch through distal strut or proximal strut. So in provisional stenting and
Yeah, there is a lot of difference between the provision stenting and DK crush. In the provision stenting, it is always better to cross when the distalmost part, that is nearer to the carina. So that causes the remodeling of the carina is a better way. Whereas when you are doing for the DK crush, so it is better to be from the proximal stent strut, but not the distal stent strut. That makes all the difference.
mini crush and DK crush, both we should be choosing proximal or middle at least. And for provisional, because if we have to convert this provisional into two stent, then we go mostly for T or kilot. So in both the cases, we should be doing distal stenting. And there are many techniques described. People discuss a lot of techniques, how to be certain of whether we are going to distal stent strut or proximal stent strut. So we can discuss that if madam has time. So then this is the cine after the crossing, and so far things are comfortable. Then we have taken another stent 3.5 into 14, which is deployed in left main to LCX, and we made sure that it is coming inside the left main so that to complete the ostium of the LCX. So basically T and protrusion technique we deployed over here. Then we did simultaneous, we did sequentially balloon dilatation, then we did simultaneous kissing balloon dilatation also with almost same size of balloon in 3.5 in left main to LED and 3.5 to 14 left main to LCX at 10 atmosphere. So this dilatations we did a sequential and then simultaneous.
Only precautions to be taken is because 3.5 in the proximal LED, the size becomes definitely the larger than that of the left main. So the degree of the atmospheres you are applying onto each balloon makes the difference when you are taking the larger sized balloons.
Yes. So this is the injection after doing this sequential and kissing balloon dilatation. Then we did IVUS, and these are the frames from the IVUS. So we saw right away from left main to the entire course of LED, and then we had seen through L6 also. So almost everywhere the stent was well opposed and the area was reasonably achieved. So just an IVUS picture. If this at polygon of confluence, we should be getting 7.2 millimeter square, and left main we should be getting around 8 8.2 millimeter square area for best long-term outcomes. Then we do final pot, because pot say they say that for ovalization, pot is must. In fact, nowadays people advocate that after pot, again you do SKB and again repot for making it complete oval. So I don't know. I had a lot of differences in the opinion on that in the previous talk. But we did one pot with 4.5 into 8 millimeter NC balloon, and that's it. That was it.
Ideally for the DK crush, 2 pots and 2 pieces are optimal. I believe it. It's not that every person does in the same way, but definitely this gives a much better result. Mainly when you wanted a re-intervention, not only the thinking about an optimal result at present, which can be come within 1 pot and 2 kisses. But if you do the 2 pots and 2 kisses, the re-intervention becomes an easy, because both the pathways becomes very good. And fluid dynamics are also is demonstrated that having a 2 pot decreases the eddy currents generation into the main vessel. So that causes the lesser restenosis.
Yes, ma'am. Certainly, DK crush is best option because of these two. But this was T and protrusion basically.
Beautiful demonstration of a T with protrusion, and very nicely done. I mean, when we started, we were just thinking it will be a DK crush, but the T with protrusion turned out beautiful. And I think we just had an open mind while doing it. And that big diagonal was a big decision, and going with a T with protrusion so that the carina is beautiful, there's no metal in the middle, and all the vessels are flowing beautifully. And the pot and the sizing, that's a very nicely done case.
Yeah,
I think
very good result. Final result is excellent.
The apprehension of losing diagonal was too high in the mind, and I think the intention to finish it a little faster, so that
it was good. No, it was very good, because the crash would have just had created more confusions. So I think are there more cases you'll show these Ben studies, Kavita? Complete your slides, please. I think we have very little time, but we also.
Second case is very small, ma'am. Actually, so we have this 68-year-old lady who hypertensive and diabetic neuropathy, history of CAD, and she had chest pain since one day, and turned out to be acute anti-ST MI. So vitally stable, took to cath lab immediately, and we are seeing this LTX is good, and LED is 100% occluded right after the origin of diagonal, and from the diagonal we are seeing that it is actually diseased since beginning. So we were thinking that it might, because it's big diagonal, I think the only diagonal which is supplying the entire area. So after seeing this only, we thought that maybe we should be requiring 2 stents in this case. RCA small, so we pass a wire, easily we achieve flow.
What about Rupa, your strategy in acute MI about the 2 stent strategies?
All. I think, see, look at it, as the wire is gone, see how beautifully the diagonal is there. It's a ruptured plaque. Unless you have a calcific or a very hard and you know you'll not get a good result, you seal the plaque, the diagonal is going to be flowing. I would be very hesitant to do a 2 stent in an acute MI. Yes, it will be stenting for sure, electively no. And even in this, as you wired, the diagonal already started looking good. See, you give vasodilator, you get the thrombus out, you get the flow going. Just be patient. In a STEMI, the vessel will grow. There's no question about that.
Yes, ma'am. I think in this case, we could have finished with 1 case.
If you're even planning a 2 stent, it has to be provisional. It cannot be elective 2 stents.
So, direct stent was taken.
This is a very regular kind of a STEMI, with a big diagonal coming. All of us have cases which are fine. I mean, I don't remember one when I ended up putting 2 stents.
I agree, ma'am. I think we can manage with the provisional stunting of LED.
In fact, anyway, madam has done the same thing. First, she has done the stunting to LED. Okay, let us see what is happened.
Sorry, just small point. There are more patients in STEMI where you accept a good result with a thrombus migrating down the diagonal, and we all know those patients are fine. It is more likely that you will lose the diagonal, but your patient will still be fine.
Ma'am, I accept and agree that I think I could have managed with one stent. This. So we took this stent, direct stenting, 3x34. And there's no major issue actually with the diagonal. And as everybody is agreeing that you could have leave it. But still the disease is there at the point of diagonal origin.
But most of the people, if you re-inject for some other reason or do a CT angio, they demonstrate the good diagonals.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So we did then a post-dilatation of this lesion, which was across diagonal. In the down also, in fact, post-dilatation was required. And then at this point, we recrossed diagonal through strut. Some negative of LED, distal stent. And then we pre-dilated this diagonal with 2x8 through distal strut. Then we took another stent, which was 2.25 into 18, and we took into LED. We capped a balloon simultaneously into LED stent. Then this diagonal stent we have taken into LED stent so that we don't miss at all side branch ostium. It is, I think, nicely covered. And after deploying it, we crushed it with the balloon, which was already capped in LED, and then we did simultaneous ballooning. Then we again did pot, the proximal part of LED stent. Then this was the result. So I think angiographically good looking, but may not be.
No, I
How
would
much of
not.
contrast is used?
I would really, this is very disappointing, you know, that in a STEMI to do such a long procedure, give so much contrast, cause so much microembolization, where's the myocardial blush? You know, it's almost in this, very long ago in the 90s, it was written for RF ablation, but it applies to us. It's, you know, it's the editorial came therapy in search of disease. You know, you see a bifurcation, you want to do stents, it's not to know, you know, how to do it. This I would, as a technique, okay, fine, but in the setting, very inappropriate in the setting of STEMI, and the blush is not there. I don't know, you know, you can't do such long procedures in STEMI.
Yes, ma'am, I agree, ma'am. I totally agree.
Ma'am, this is a teaching session, so I think this is an excellent way of demonstrating a provisional second stunting. Of course, the scenario is not correct, but the technique and the results are beautiful.
From the point which I stand, I must say that the previous case, there's learning in everything. And I will strongly, you know, when we are younger, we try to do everything, but I will strongly tell you that, yes, you see, today you have opportunity to see so many people's work. You're learning when you're seeing. It's not that you're not learning. So be comfortable and find your space to, you know, leave something when needed to leave.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
So should
I
we
can,
go to Preeti? Welcome, Preeti. Preeti is again a senior consultant with Max. We haven't worked together, but she's at Max Dehradun, and we do interact a lot on our STEMI platform and work, and always a pleasure to have you. And she's recently done a TAVI. I mean, I've seen it in a session, a MyValve. How's your patient, Preeti, doing?
Okay, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, okay. So let's get going with our case quickly.
Good evening, everyone. So my case was LED D1 bifurcation, and most of the time we are doing DK crush in bifurcation lesions if there is a need of 2 stents. But in this patient, I will show you that how I have to change my strategy from a DK crush to a QLOC. So just a little clinic presentation. He was a 74-year-old male who was hypertensive with no other conventional risk factors for CAD. He presented in my OPD with a history of chest pain and breathing difficulty for 3 to 4 months. ECG did not show any ACT changes. Echo showed normal LV ejection fraction, and I subjected him to a treadmill, but he could not walk for more than 4 minutes, and the reason of termination was breathing difficulty. This was the ECG presentation. And as you can see in this, that there was a separate ostia of LCX and LED. LCX was having some 80% stenosis, and this is LED D1. You can see that there is a critical stenosis in mid-LED involving the origin of a large and a major diagonal branch. And this is areocranial view. You can see that there is some osteoproximal disease in LED, and RCA was free of disease. So for procedural planning, we discussed among ourselves that it was a LED D1 bifurcation, Medina 111, with a very good diagonal, and the disease was extending for more than 5 millimeters. So our plan was to do a 2-stent strategy. As it was a Y-shaped this bifurcation, we were planning to do a DK crush. Most of the time we do transradial procedures, and DK also, unless and until it is a left main, we are doing through transradial route, and in this patient we took a 6S EBU catheter. And first we did L6 stenting. You can see this is pre-dilatation and then followed by a 2.521 death, and this was the result in LCX. And for my surprise, I could not actually wire this diagonal with a workhorse wire. I could dilate LED with the workhorse BMW wire, but to wire this, I had to take a filter XC. So I wired this with the help of microcatheter with a Feldler XC wire, and then we did sequential dilatations in diagonal and LED. And then after dilatation, we changed this wire to a workhorse wire. And then as a DK crush, you have to keep a stent in the side branch. You have to stent first. So I took a stent and was trying to deploy this, take this stent to the diagonal branch. And when I took a shot, I could see that there was a type C dissection in the diagonal, and I could not, because of eccentric calcium, I could not drag this stent into the diagonal. At that point of time, I was having a diagonal which was having a dissection in the proximal segment, and stent was not crossing because of eccentric calcium. So at that point of time, to save both the branches, I changed my strategy from a DK crush to a culotte. Rather, it was the inverted culotte in which I fixed the side branch first. As you can see, I took the help of mother and child catheter and again dilated this diagonal branch, and this is diagonal stent. You can see this is protruding into the main branch, and then we deployed this stent. You can see, and then we pre-dilated this. Then we did a pot with a 3 into 12 millimeter balloon into this diagonal branch. And then LED was recrossed with a floppy wire, as you can see, and then was dilated with a 2.5 into 10 millimeter balloon.
One more step I wanted to say here is when you are having a difficulty in crossing from LED to the diagonal, then do a anchor balloon technique. Put a wire into the LED and pass a balloon into the LED and fix it, and try to pass it. Especially this is very helpful when the patient has a calcium in the ostium of the diagonal regions. That facilitates the delivery of the stent.
Second option is when there is a difficulty in the dissection also. Can we consider an exchange of wire with a microcatheter here?
Preeti, just tell me, what did you pre-dilate the diagonal with that it had such a nasty dissection?
Then we dilated both the branches first with 212 and then a 2.512, because with 2 we could see that it was not being dilated properly, and we could feel that there was a calcium, because we do imaging only in our 20-30% cases. Initially, that was a myth that we did not do imaging just to see the extent of calcium, whether we can do a better lesion fixation if I could have seen the imaging first in this patient.
Did you go to high pressures because of the calcium on the 2.5?
No, 2.5, it was an NC balloon, and I dilated at a 14 atmosphere in this patient.
Right. Right. So, so taking a 2 to 20 atmosphere lets you go take a 2.5 to 7-8 atmosphere and you're fine. Second, when you did a pot on the diagonal, the wire was not there in the LED. To do a pot, you don't need to remove the wire. Keep the wire because it's very important not to lose the LED wire for anything.
So here's the catch, ma'am, because it was a 6 French guiding catheter, and I had to take help of a mother and child catheter. That is why I had to remove my LED wire. So you can see that in the whole procedure there was no wire in LED. So in culottes, actually you can keep the wire in main branch or you can remove it also, because you are going through the main branch, so the crossing is relatively easier once you're doing that.
Got it. So when there was a problem, you choose to change to femoral, you persisted with the radial. That's very good.
Ma'am, it's actually, this is the protocol we follow. Unless and until it is a left main, we do it through a 6 French. We are able to manage most of our cases through a 6 French radial. So,
this is tricky.
6 French.
It's fine, but you've got a mother and child, you got one wire, your wire and the LED is out.
Yeah,
so,
actually the 6 French major drawback is we can do the sequential stunt placements, but not simultaneous. But still it is good enough. And your mother and child is giving a really good support. I didn't realize that it is a 6 French.
Yeah. No, but in a guideliner, you can take 2 wires. I've done it many times that through the lumen you take it, you can have 2 wires down, that's not a problem.
So,
I think with the 6 French it will be very difficult. Even though you put the 2 wires, but all gadgetries to go is difficult.
So in this, it's only a wire, no? The LED is a wire. So in a guideliner, you can definitely have 2 wires through the lumen and come out. That's not a problem. I can assure you that.
but with the 6 French guiding or the 6 French guideline, it becomes difficult.
Yeah, that itself is difficult.
That's the whole having thing. And second, the FC is a very good wire. In place of fielder, even FC is excellent to cross these branches.
Yes. So this was LED dilatation, and then we took a stent. It was 2.7528 depth, which was deployed at 13 atmospheres. And then a pot was done with a 312 balloon in the LED, and then the diagonal was again rewired through the LED strut, and it was dilated with a 210 balloon.
2.5 or 210?
2 and then 2.5, and then I had to do a kissing balloon with a 3.8 into the LED and a 210 into the diagonal, and this is you can see this is the result. And with this pushing and pulling, we could see that the proximal segment was also having severe narrowing by that time, so I had to implant a stent into the osteoproximal segment overlapping with the mid LED stent, as you can see. And this is the final result. So the take-home message from this case is that imaging, it is an adjunctive tool in procedural planning, and you can actually prepare your bed better with the help of cutting balloons. If you see, you can take help of rotablation. If it is a thick calcium and deep calcium, you can take a help of IVL nowadays. And even after rotablation, sometimes I have seen that in these tortuous or calcified lesions, you have to take help of mother and child catheter for the stent delivery in these arteries. And with this last diagonal with the Medina 111, 2 stent strategy should be an upfront strategy and should be the standard of care. And if most of us are actually having our preferred strategies for bifurcation, but if you feel, if you have any complication in your chosen bifurcation strategy, don't hesitate to change it to another strategy for your procedural success. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a really excellent case. And what usually we read, teach is you prefer to do the collart over the DK crush when the angulated vessel is more diseased and is a more important vessel. So then we will do it. But you showed another indication that if it is an unanticipated dissection occurs, then we can convert. That is a really great demonstration. And one more thing is actually for ideal they say 3-part and 1 crush is ideal. I think you are already done the 3-part in this. So that's the reason why you have an excellent result.
Only thing again, when you do a kissing balloon final, you took a 2 millimeter in the diagonal, Like in the
Yes.
previous case of Lalita, I mean, take a 2.5 that you've already
Definitely.
made.
Yes,
I mean,
definitely.
it's,
You
you
should
know,
take
you
1:1. The balloon should be 1:1 to the vessel size while you're doing a kissing balloon, and you should ideally inflate it at the 6 to 8 atmosphere and with a minimal overlap into the main vessel. That is the ideal strategy you should follow once you're doing SKD.
rounds, you can go to 12, 14, and then you do simultaneous at 6, 8, and you deflate
Yes.
together.
Yes,
And that's a bit, and that gets a
Yes.
good, the struts are moved about as far apart as possible, and you get a good result. Anyway, beautiful result, and I'm sure the patient would have done well, very nicely
Yes,
done.
he's in follow. Doing good for 6 months. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
Dr.
really
Jyoti,
excellent.
over to you for the final comments. I think all the cases have been very good, very illustrative, and it's been an amazing learning session. I've learned so much from all my colleagues. I mean, I'm so proud of all of you. Congratulations, all of you.
Yeah,
So,
really. The women force is demonstrated here, and more than the women force, the way of presentation, the way of teaching at every point is really practical is demonstrated. That is really good. I am really congratulating each and everyone.
what I like the best of this forum is we disagree with a lot of comfort. You know, most guys, you just can't disagree. They have such a strong opinion. I mean, all of us have given our opinions which have been so well taken. And really, cheers, girls. That's our strength, and maybe just grow strength to strength in future also.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
thank you very much.
Thank you,
And
everyone.
Srinivas, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Can we conclude the session, or you wanted to say something?
No, ma'am. Just
Yeah.
close it,
Then,
ma'am. No issue.
yeah, thanks to Rupa madam to get such a good people. Dr. Preeti, I heard about you, but I could see your case now and the way of the discussion. I'm really great. And of course, Lalita is working along with me, and both of us are very good friends, more than colleagues in the hospital. We are the outside, we are the best friends. And Rupa and Kavita, that everyone has demonstrated their efficiency in the interventions. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
ma'am. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.